Gopijana Vallabha Shivarata Gopijana Vallabha Shivarata Gopijana Vallabha Shivarata Gopijana Madhava Punya Vaveshana Vallabha Girivarata Vaveshana Vallabha Girivarata Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Vaishnava Friends, Lord Shri Krishna, Caitanya, Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Asgura Bhaktavinda, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamakunda Radha Kunda Kirivaram Gichay, Vrindavanam Gichay, Mathuradam Gichay, Navitam Gichay, Ungavai Gichay, Yamanamai Rasidev Gichay, Bhakti Dev Gichay, Samaveda Bhakti. All glory to the Son of the all glory to the Son. You listen noch jetzt. So we're reading from the Transcendental Diary, Hari Sauri Prabhu. So this time Prabhupada is in Vrindavan Dharam. Rather than going for, it's September 6, 1976. Rather than going, finished, ready? Rather than going for a walk, Prabhupada simply circumambulated the temple on the Parikram path and then went in for darshan, Guru Puja, and class. Today's verse was 177. Yasyam vai shuyaman shumanayam Krishna Parama Purushe. Heiko, ist immer so fein. Ich will mal eine andere Brille bringen. Okay. Ist in der Schublade. Ja. Sorry. Meine Augen sind nicht mehr die besten. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. And this was a translation of the verse of Prabhupada. In his talk, Srila Prabhupada stressed the need to be Vidwan, one who has knowledge. Since all knowledge originally comes from Krishna himself and comes to us through the Parampara system, through the genuine sadhus and through the Shastras, he said that it was therefore imperative that we take proper advantage of this opportunity. Otherwise, he said, we remain rascals without any understanding of the purpose and goal of life. He stressed that other help was available. Vasudeva is everywhere, and he is ready to help us. And if we become sincere to take knowledge from Vasudeva, even though you are in the wilderness, everywhere you are with Vasudeva. You are not alone. He's so friendly that he is living with you as your most intimate friend. So Vasudeva is always ready to help us, provided we want to take help from him. And he, not only internally, he is helping externally also. He's sending his representative to teach us. A cat and a dog cannot take advantage of the sadhu, shastra, and guru. Only the human being can accept it. As Prabhupada described Srila Vyasadev's vital role as a presenter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, his words echoed, what he had told Harikesh Maharaj and me yesterday about his own role in writing the commentaries to it. The Srimad Bhagavatam Sattva Sahitam is given by Vyasadeva, not given by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is simply delivering what he has received from his Guru, Caitanya and Chaitya Guru. He is delivering that knowledge. Vedic knowledge he is delivering, and he has written this book. To take advantage of this, he said, we need only come to the temple and hear about Krishna. A high education obtained as MA and PhD is not necessary because the purpose is to develop Krishna consciousness, and simply by hearing we become Bhagavad Bhaktas. He stressed that Bhakti was the essence. Now, what is the use of Bhakti? Prabhupada asked. Just see how Bhagavata is compiled very nicely, because it is transcendental literature. You can say, what is the use of Bhakti? Why shall I waste my time? Come in the temple and hear about Krishna. Actually, they are doing that. Nobody is coming. Such a big temple. Of course, there are many temples they are going. But in other places also people have lost interest, all interest. Either temple or church or mosque, they do not go. In London, I have seen hundreds of churches are now closed. Nobody is going. If there is meeting, only the caretaker and a few old ladies go. Because why they will go? That is a fact. And actually churches are being sold. It is not lying propaganda anywhere. English boy, he confirmed this statement. Yes, people are losing interest. Yes, Paul mentions here Los Angeles temple. Actually, it was closed, and the devotees bought it. And not only over there, many places, as Paul mentioned, this is happening. And also in the survey conversation that Paul had with this monk Jungklausen. I don't know if anybody of you knows about him. He was the person who came to see Pavel in Schloss Hedershof. And we have some even pictures. We even published a book about the conversation that Pavel had with Jungklausen. And this and Pavel was very surprised to see him. And he took quite some time to talk to him. And this monk was telling Prabhupada that he was also chanting. He had some very, very small beads, like the Muslims have these small beads also. And he told Prabhupada that he was actually not following the Catholic tradition, even though he was a Catholic monk, but he was following the Orthodox tradition, where they always chant the holy names on the little beads. No, it's not a holy name, it's the Jesus prayer. I remember. Anyway, so Prabhupada is emphasizing in this conversation the importance of going to the temple and hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is described as the ripened fruit on the tree of Vedic knowledge, the most ripened fruit. And then also caught my attention here that Prabhupada said, this Bhagavatam is from Srila Vyasadeva, and then Prabhupada said, actually not from him. It's actually from Krishna. He revealed it to him. Vasudeva revealed it to him within his heart. In this way it was possible to write it down. Any questions regarding what Prabhupada says here? If you listen, okay? Oh. Okay. Muss ich das umstecken? So now we continue with the Caitanya Caritamrita. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Govinda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Govinda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Govinda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we continue this chapter. This is called the liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the Pandit of the Pandit of the court of what is it? Name of the king? And he was a very, very famous person. It says in the Caitanya Caritamrita that students from all over India came to his place. And anyway, so but he was not a devotee. He was in the ultimate issue, he was actually impersonalist. He didn't accept the Shastra as they are, like we do, or try to do. But he was following the interpretation of Shankaracharya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come to Jagannath Puri, and he had come alone because he had been traveling after he took sannyas. He was traveling with a group of devotees, and among them also Nityananda Prabhu. And after he had taken sannyas, Nityananda was ärgerlich. What is that? Ärgerlich? Yeah?
Annoyed.
Yeah, he was annoyed that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas because he understood perfectly that that was not necessary for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was above all this. He was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so at one point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath, and Nityananda, in the meantime, he broke the danda, the sannyas danda, three danda, three danda. And so when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back and found out that his danda was broken, he didn't want to travel with him anymore, with his accompaniment. And he traveled alone, and this way he came alone, all alone to Jagannath Puri. And so he walked into the temple, which is not very, what is not possible for us with Western bodies, especially white bodies. And I tried to get in there once. Not actually, I didn't try to get in there, but actually because there had been a king in Jagannath Puri, and that king had fallen in love with a Muslim lady. So the pandas of the temple in Jagannath, they didn't allow him to come in anymore. And because he felt so much separation from the deities of Jagannath, they put a picture in the entrance, Lion's Gate. They have 4 gates. Lion's Gate is where the deities come out for Ratha Yatra. Anyway, so he could have darshan from the picture. So I had heard about that. So when we went there, Jagannath Puri, I wanted to see that picture. And as soon as I tried to, as soon as I got close to the gate, wow, everyone was screaming, ah, wow, wow. The police were coming. They wouldn't allow me to come in because it was a Western. Anyway, so coming back here, um, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived in Jagannath Puri. He immediately went into the temple to see the Jagannath. And when he approached the altar, he became so overwhelmed by ecstatic feelings that he fell on the floor. And the guardians immediately came rushing, and they didn't want anybody to sleep in front of the deities. That's what their perception. So, but there was also Sarvabhavaracharya. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came into the temple, he immediately noticed him. And he was so beautiful. Actually, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, are describing this incredible beauty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was had a very has a big body. He was bigger than everybody else. And he was extremely beautiful. So when people would see him, they couldn't take off their sight of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyway, so when Sarvabhavaracharya saw him coming in the temple, he became stuck. He thought, wow, no, what? And when he saw that the guardians immediately came to correct the situation, he interfered because he was a very important person in the temple. So they took him serious. And he had heard that great souls, liberated souls, would sometimes be overcome by ecstatic feelings and fall to the ground. And so he wanted to study this closely. So he told the guardians to take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this condition to his home, so he could study him closely. And so he had the impression that actually he had given up breathing. So he got some cotton, put it in front of his, I said, Bhusana is in Spanish. Anyway, so and then he noticed, he was breathing very, I said, lightly. And, but he was just impressed and was sitting there, didn't know what to do further. So then the devotees arrived at the temple, and they heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic feelings, and that they were told that Sarvabhavaracharya had taken him to his home. So then immediately they started. They knew perfectly well how to bring him back to external consciousness. But instead of the heavy metal kirtan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was hearing the kirtan. He came back to external consciousness. And then there was a devotee, actually family member of Sarvabhavaracharya, I remember the name. Gobi. He immediately started preaching to him. He said, you have to surrender to him. And then Sarvabhavaracharya was critical because he was actually not a devotee. He was philosopher, speculator. So he was not impressed by this at all. But he had felt when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enter into the temple, and he saw that he was a sannyasi and was so young, he felt compassion with him. Because he thought that he's so young and so beautiful, he would have many difficulties in his sannyas life, in his ashram. So motivated by that, by this compassion, he offered to teach him. So he would be well educated, to have the strength to resist all kinds of, how you say, Verführung. What is that in English? Anyway, temptation. Yeah. Temptation. I think temptation. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surprisingly accepted this invitation to become educated And he was sitting there, and it says in the Caitanya Caritamrita, he sat there for 7 days, listened to yeah, Sarvadacharya. And so Sarvadacharya was very, I say, skeptical. You know, what? You're not asking any question. This is such high philosophy. You don't have any question. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yeah, yes, actually I know Vedanta Sutra, but your commentaries seem to be like the clouds covering the sun. The sun. And when Sarvadacharya heard that, he became very offended. You know, he immediately turned around and said, "Now you give commentaries. Let's hear your commentary." And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started giving his commentaries. And while Sarvadacharya was listening to him, he kind of he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And he came to the conclusion that this was actually the composer, original composer of the Vedanta Sutra. You know, actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, or Vyasadeva is a Shaktavesha avatar, actually also Krishna. So then as he was hearing and hearing, he became very respectful, surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, and I think we are right in the middle of this here, this discussion, as far as I know. So let's start. Upanishad Hatyaye Mukha Arthahaya Seyarthamukya Vyasa Sutra Samakaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. The Vedanta Sutra is a summary of all the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra of Vyasa Sutra. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has explained the word Upanishad in his Anubhasya. Please refer to Adi Lila, 2nd chapter, 5th verse, and Adi Lila, 7th chapter, verse 106 and 108 for this explanation. And I searched it out, and it goes, Prabhu Kahe Vedanta Sutra Ishvara Vachana Vyasa Rupe Kairayata Narayana. The Lord said, Vedanta philosophy consists of words spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan in the form of Vyasadeva. Purport. The Vedanta Sutra, which consists of aphorisms revealing the method of understanding Vedic knowledge, is a concise form of all Vedic knowledge. It begins with the words Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. The human form of life is especially meant for this purpose. And therefore the Vedanta Sutra very concisely explains the human mission. This is confirmed by the words of the Vanu and Skanda Puranas, which define the sutra as follows. Alpaksham asandiham sarasat vishvato mukam astobham manavatyam cha sutram sutra vido vido. All sutra is a compilation of aphorisms that expresses the essence of all knowledge in a minimum word, in a minimum of words. It must be universally applicable and faultless in its linguistic presentation. Anyone familiar with such sutras must beware of the Vedanta Sutra, which is well known among scholars by the following additional names. 1. Brahma Sutra. 2. Shariraka. 3. Vyasa Sutra. 4. Badarayana Sutra. 5. Uttara Mimamsa. And 6. Vedanta Darshana. There are 4 chapters, adhyayas, in the Vedanta Sutra, and there are 4 divisions, padas, in each chapter. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra may be referred to as Shodasha Pada, or 16 divisions of aphorisms. The theme of each and every division is fully described in terms of 5 different subject matters, adhikaranas, which are technically called pratigya, hetu, udaharana, upanaya, and nigamana. Every theme must necessarily be explained with reference to the pratigya, or a solemn declaration of the purpose of the treatise. The solemn declaration given at the beginning of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahmatikyasa, which indicates that this book was written with a solemn declaration to inquire about the absolute truth. Similarly, reasons must be expressed, hetu, examples must be given in terms of various facts, udaharana. The theme must be gradually be brought nearer to understanding, upanaya. And finally, it must be supported by authoritative quotations from the Vedic Shastras. Yeah, I was just hearing about time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was a young high teacher. I think, young high teacher. And he was, and then he had become so expert, in Vedic, how say terminology, yeah, that all the pandas, in the area, they were all surprised. Not only that, but also they avoided him because he would always win, I say, every argument. And of course, like it says here, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu argued, it was based on truth. It was not based on his own speculation, his own invention. Uh, so, like we hear here, the Vedanta Sutra is a very, very sophisticated shastra. Like Bhagavad starts speaking about, that is a sutra, and then Bhagavad explains here the purpose, what it means. So this is very, 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 how you say, intricate. How you say, very intricate. Practically impossible for ordinary people to understand. And that's why, well, in the end, when he had compiled the Vedanta Sutra, he had compiled or divided the original Veda in 4 Vedas, and written other literature like Mahabharata, which contains the Bhagavad Gita also, like that, in the Upanishads, and but still he was unsatisfied. He was unsatisfied. And why he was unsatisfied? Well, at that time, when in complete frustration, practically, his spiritual master came in form of Narada Muni. Narada Muni explained to him what was the cause of his insatisfaction. That he had not spoken about Krishna, that he had not described the lila and the qualities of the Supreme Personage of God, which is actually the goal of Vedic stuff. So then he told him to give a commentary to the Vedanta Sutra, and the commentary is a Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada mentioned in one place, Prabhupada mentioned that there are people who say that actually Vyasadeva never wrote a commentary to Vedanta Sutra, as it's the custom amongst the acharyas. All the great acharyas to give their commentary for Vedanta Sutra to be recognized as sublime. What they don't know, like Bhagavad mentioned, what they don't know is that actually the Bhagavatam is a natural commentary of the how I said the compiler of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And who can know the Vedanta Sutra better than the how I said the writer, original compiler? Anyway, so now we go back to the Caitanya Caritamrita, where we start. Mukyartha chadiyakari buddhat hakalpana avidhavritti charikara subhera lakshana. For each sutra, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretation. Pramane ramati shuddhi pramana pradana shuddhiye mukyartha kahe se pramana. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly are first-class evidence. So I just heard Prabhupada say that when the Vedas are so clear, you know, but when they're not very clear, then we can also try to understand my own limitations. You know, but Prabhupada, you know, we're actually very, very fortunate. You know, Prabhupada gave us so many books, so much knowledge. I just heard in India, they're doing the Kumbh Mela. They had a ceremony. Singing, yeah, yeah. And glorifying. I didn't see the whole video, but it showed that Howard was actually glorified, you know, in the middle of the Kumbh Mela for his work, you know, of bringing Vedic culture to the West. Yes. Did you see that? Yes. Yeah, there were even people with 3 lines, yes, taking part in the ceremony. Vishwaguru, even huh? The title of Vishwaguru, the Guru of Universe. Prabhupada got a new title. Yeah. And all the Sanatan Dharma sadhus, they agreed that he is a Vishwaguru. Yeah. Vishwaguru? Vishwaguru. Oh, Vishwaguru. Yeah. I thought they declared that he was God or something. No, but it's actually, you know, also the government in India. Yes? It's what was the name of the president? Narendra Modi. Yeah, Modi. You know, I saw a photo. Modi taking part in Harinam. Yes. With big kartas. Yes. The only one using big kartas. Yes. And it's a fact. You know, I don't know how this is developed in Germany, but in South America, the ambassadors of the different countries, they always take part in the Hatha Yatra, they speak. Like in Buenos Aires, we had a big Ratha Yatra. The ambassador is always coming with his wife. The wife even comes to the temple to help on the kitchen for the Sunday feast. Can you imagine? You know? And he invites the devotees to his home to do bhajans and read, you know, from Prabhupada's books. Not only that, in Paraguay, the same thing. The ambassador took a broom, I say, clean the road and all that. And it's not surprising because whenever this Modi travels, devotees always try to be there, you know, at the receptions and, you know. That's why he is impressed to see the devotees all over the world. Anyway, coming back. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly are first-class evidence. Works that should be consulted are Srila Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha 10 to 11, Srila Bharadeva Vidya Bhushana's commentary on that, and the following verses of the Brahma Sutra. Shastra Yonitvad, verse 113. Tatar Pratishthanat, verse 2, 111. And Shruts to Chapter Mulagvad, verse 2, 127, is commented upon by Srila Ramanujacharya, Srila Madhvacharya, Srila Nimbakacharya, Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana. In his book Sarva Samvidini, Srila Jiva Goswami has noted that although there are 10 kinds of evidence, direct perception, the Vedic version, historic reference, hypothesis, and so on, And although they are all generally accepted as evidence, the person presenting the a hypothesis, reading the Vedic version, uh, perceive, perceiving or interpreting by his experience is certain to be imperfect in four ways. So I read it again. In his book Sattva Samvadini, Srila Jiva Goswami has noted that although there are 10 kinds of evidence, correct perception, the Vedic version, historical reference, hypothesis, and so on, and although they are all generally accepted as evidence, the person presenting a hypothesis, reading the Vedic version, perceiving or interpreting by his experience is certain to be imperfect in four ways. That is, he is subject to committing mistakes, to becoming illusioned, to cheating, and to having imperfect senses. Although the evidence might be correct, the person himself is in danger of being misled due to his material defects. Apart from the direct presentation, there's a chance that an interpretation may not be perfect. Therefore, the conclusion is that only a direct presentation can be considered evidence. An interpretation cannot be accepted as evidence, but may be considered proof of evidence. In the Bhagavad Gita, at the very beginning, it is stated, Dharma Kshetra Kuru Kshetre Samaveta Yutsavaha Namaga Pandavaschaiva Kim Agurvata Sanjaya. The statements of the Bhagavad Gita are themselves proof that there is a place of religious pilgrimage named Kurukshetra, where the Pandavas and Kurus met to fight. After meeting there, what did they do? This was Dhritarashtra's inquiry to Sanjaya. Although these statements are very clear, atheists try to interpret different meanings of the words Dharma Kshetra and Kurukshetra. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami has warned us not to depend on any kind of interpretation. It is better to take the verses as they are without interpretation. Not like Gandhi. He said that Kurukshetra is the body. Yeah? How you say, Krishna, no, what is that? Krishna is the mind or something like that? Yes, yeah. And the senses, our horses, what is it? So anyway, no, so, and this, yeah, and the senses, the five pandavas. This is very gross interpretation. I heard they called Gandhi, you know, amongst the politicians, he was holy. How do you say holy? Yeah, yeah. And amongst the holy men, he was just a politician. Any questions regarding the text that we just read? A commentary? You want to say something? Yes. Huh? Why not? Okay, we go on. Jiverasti sadui sankadomaya Shruti vakya se duhima kavitrahaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, conscience and cow dung are nothing but the bones of the stool of some living entity. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. This has been quoted by Srila Prabhupada so often, you know, as evidence, you know, that the Vedic knowledge is, I say, irrevocable. I say irrevocable. It's a fact. Because one might, well, maybe probably, according to Vedic principles, bones and dung are generally considered very impure. If one touches a bone or stool, he must take a bath immediately. That is a Vedic injunction. Yet the Vedas also enjoin, to the contrary, although the bone of an animal and cow dung, although the stool of an animal, are very much sanctified. Even though such statements appear contradictory, on the basis of the Vedic version, we still accept the fact that conchas and cow dung are pure and sanctified. That's why in some places they clean the temple with cow dung. And also they use cow dung for this fire sacrifice. They use also cow dung to clean places which require very intense purity, like the altar, the kitchen, like that. Just like says that the kitchen is actually like the expansion of the altar. Um, that's why I have mentioned many times in the former times, we had always the rules of the how you say, for the kitchen, outside of the kitchen. You know, there was a marked frame like that with all the, I say, they think that should not be done in the kitchen. You know, and one of the rules was also not to enter with, not with sari and dhoti. And these clothes were supposed to be clean, yeah? Not just used like that. Yeah. And when we would go to cook, one had to take a bath before, you know, and whenever you know, somebody touches himself, he always has to wash his hands. Something fell to the floor, if it wasn't possible to wash it, like chapatis or something like that, then they couldn't be offered, really, like that. And also speaking in the kitchen. My room is just above the kitchen. And I mentioned many times that one should not speak unnecessarily in the kitchen. You know? When you're cooking, you should concentrate on what you're doing. It should be a deep meditation. You're cooking for Krishna. It should be the best. And you should have the best consciousness. It should be completely, how you say, surrendered to Krishna when you cook. And not taste and not smell anything in the kitchen. Nothing which should be enjoyed before it is offered to Krishna. You know? Anyway, so speaking unnecessary, and I heard that in Puri, for example, well, also in our temple sometimes, devotees put these, I say, huh? What is that in English? Mascara. Anyway, yeah. Because when you're speaking in the kitchen, so many things fly out of your mouth and fall in the food. You might not notice it, but it's a fact. Yeah? That's why we shouldn't speak. So, I remember when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cleaning the temple, the Gundicha temple, in Jagannath Puri. And all the devotees who helped him, they were not to speak either. Their only communication was Krishna, 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 Krishna. Bring me some water. Didn't say that, like Krishna. Anyway, sorry. I hope I didn't offend anyone. Okay, next verse. This one is Smith. Yeah? This one is Svata pramana veda satya yekai lakshana karine svata pramanya vihaya. The Vedic statements are self-evident. Whatever is stated, there must be accepted. If we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. Out of four main types of evidence, direct perception, hypothesis, historical reference, and the Vedas, Vedic evidence is accepted as the foremost. If we want to interpret the Vedic version, we must imagine an interpretation according to what we want to do. First of all, we set forth such an interpretation as a suggestion or hypothesis. As such, it is not actually true, and the self-evident proof is lost. Sridhamadvacharya, commenting on the aphorism Vishyate Du, Vedanta Sutra 216, quotes the Bhavishya Purana as follows. Righva Vidyayu Samatavasya Bharatam Pancharatrakam Mula Ramayanam Chaiva Veda Iti Shaktidaha Puranani Chahyaniha Vaishnavani Vido Viduhu Swata Pramanyam Ekesham Natra Kinchit Vicharyate. The Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, Mahabharata, Pancharatra, and original Ramayana are all considered Vedic literature. The Puranas that are especially meant for Vaishnavas, such as the Brahma, Vaivaka Purana, Narada Purana, Vishnu Purana, and Bhagavad Purana, are also Vedic literature. Therefore, whatever is stated in such Puranas or in the Mahabharata and Ramayana is self-evident. There is no need for interpretation. The Bhagavad Gita is also within the Mahabharata. Therefore, all the statements of the Bhagavad Gita are self-evident. There is no need for interpretation. And if we do interpret, the entire authority of the Vedic literature is lost. Interesting, the Prabhupada mentions here. The Puranas are especially meant for Vaishnavas. He mentions those Puranas meant for the Vaishnavas. Brahma Vaivaka Purana, Naradiya Purana, Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata Purana. 18 Puranas and divided into six. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And at one point, I remember in one class, Prabhupada said that actually you can kill. There is permission to kill animals under certain conditions. And he gives example that when you want to eat meat, you cannot just kill any animal, but it has to be a black goat, and it has to be killed at night when there's no moon. It's dark, black. And you're supposed to cut off the head of the axe. How's it? Yeah. And there has to be present a Brahmana. And the Brahmana has to chant the mantra. And just before you cut the head, the Brahmana has chanted the mantra. I don't know the exact mantra, but the meaning more or less that my dear goat, I'm taking your life now. And I promise you that you will be able to take my life in the future for it. And all these things, and also taking alcohol, liquor, and all that. Yeah. This is all possible, but under very, very strict conditions. Yeah. So the idea is that when you do that, and you always hear the mantra, that somehow or other you comes to the wood, you become conscious of what you're doing and stop doing it. This is actually part of the Puranas and mode of ignorance. There's many regulations which are meant to help people to become free from all this illusion, to become more and more elevated to higher levels like passion, and finally to the mode of goodness. And amongst all the Puranas, and even amongst the Puranas meant for the Vaishnavas, the Prabhupada quotes a lot of these Puranas. But actually the ultimate Purana, or like I mentioned, ripened fruit on the tree of Vedic knowledge, is the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada gives so much effort, so much effort to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the end, he didn't finish it. He didn't finish it. The devotees, Vidananda Maharaj, Gopi, yeah. So they were authorized by the GBC at that time, to finish it. But anyway, I don't want to commit any offense, but you can see the difference. Sorry. Anyway, so we're very fortunate to have the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which should actually be studied after you finish the Bhagavatam. Yeah. When you hear the Chaitanya Charitamrita and also the Chaitanya Bhagavat, actually my impression of the Chaitanya Bhagavat is even more, I say that, more confidential. Because it speaks a lot about the ecstasies and how you say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is how you say complete transcendental madness and all this. Very difficult to understand. That's why we have to go step by step. Bhagavad Gita. That's why Prabhupada wanted Bhagavad Gita at night, expecting that people come from outside. Newcomers are coming. Bhagavad Gita, teaching the basics. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, when all these practicing devotees come together and eager to advance, to hear more about Krishna. This is actually what's happening. When you start hearing or read Bhagavad, or start chanting, or associate with devotees, or read or hear Shastra, you develop some taste. You become more and more, like they say, addicted. Addiction. That's why they were accusing us, many years back, that we were addicted to this kind of. This was a brainwashing, that we had been undergone. We had undergone. And I remember they had this program, that they would kidnap devotees, and take them to some psychologist to deprogram them, kind of. And at that time, when this happened, we had this phenomena of the Jugendsekt, the sects of the youth. How's the youth? There was in the 60s, the beginning of the 70s. And they were all young people, the Jesus people, and the Hare Krishnas. And amongst all these groups, they had the highest price for hourly program. Why is this? Because we were the most difficult to deprogram. And whereas the others, they were kind of giving it up quickly. And even some devotees, they played along with them, just to get out of it. And then they again started practicing Krishna consciousness fully. Anyway, this is also mentioned in the Prabhupada film, the last film of Srila Prabhupada. That was even a lady girl speaking about, her mother's insisting that you program, you brainwash this and that. She argues. Anyway, so this is part of our history, history. So they always conclude the same. We are very, very fortunate to have our books, Prabhupada's teaching. Just like when we read part of the diary of Hari Sauri, it's so important that we hear how Prabhupada, his activities, his words, how he explains things like that. Actually, Prabhupada was so detailed, in all these things. Nowadays, these devotees who were associated with Prabhupada directly, like Hari Sauri, they heard all this, they got all this information directly from Srila. That's why it's so important that we hear about Prabhupada's activity, and is associated with devotees, with first disciples. Because we are not in that condition anymore. Prabhupada is not there anymore. Yeah. And unfortunately, I hope I don't commit any offenses saying this, but at the time of Prabhupada, there was training, because by Srila Prabhupada. Nowadays, so many devotees are not properly trained, especially those, because nowadays Not so many devotees living in the temples anymore. Of course, here we have, they're more fortunate. But many temples that I visit, there's hardly anybody living in the temple. Most of the devotees are living outside, the grihastas, they have work, and especially when new people come in that condition, it's very difficult to get training. You know? We got all this training, getting up early, going to Mangalarti, see us, yes and yes, how you say in English? Anyway, and then Mangalarti, seeing the TV, paying obeisances all the time, and then here in the class, associating with devotees who are practicing, and when you're not properly practicing in the association of devotees, you get I say the social pressure also, like at home there's no social pressure. Yeah. And somebody wouldn't get up in the morning, everyone knew. Whereas when you're at home, nobody knows if you're sleeping or you're awake or what you're doing. And we loved it at that time. This austerity, austerity. Nobody's sleeping in beds. Everyone sleeping on the floor and the sleeping bag, in any place because there were so many devotees. There were devotees sleeping in the kitchen, under the sink of the kitchen, even almost in the bathroom, because there was no place. I remember in Buenos Aires we slept on the roof. You know? It was like kind of it was dangerous to get back from the roof to go back to Mangalati. And there was no hot water, only cold water, like this morning. There was no, you know this? Yeah. Very nice. Very refreshing. Because when you take in the morning we take bath with hot water, warm water. Actually, I doubt that the body really wakes up. With cold water, you really wake up. There I am. Anyway, I don't want to end this unnecessarily. Let's continue. Sorry. Vya Vyasasutrena Artayaicha Suryena Kirana Svakalpita Vasya Vegetarya Chanana. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. The Brahma Sutra compiled by Srila Vyasadeva is as radiant as the sun. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers the sunshine with a cloud. Imagine. Yeah. Veda Purana Gahe Brahma Nirupana Shai Brahma Vihavastu Ishvara Lakshana. All the Vedas and literature, they strictly follow the Vedic principles, explain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. Purport. The greatest of everything is Sri Krishna. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaishtavai aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 11, it is said that the absolute truth is understood in three phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Paranti tat tattvavidam tat brahm. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmeti, Paramameti, Bhagavaniti Shakyate. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the last word in understanding the absolute truth, Brahman. Yeah, we're very grateful to Srila Prabhupada. Normally, this kind of understanding is not, how you say, not reached, how you say, not reached, within a short time, like us. But we have developed faith in Krishna. Normally have to go life after life. Yeah? You start following the Vedic principles by fruitive kind of karma. Yeah, karma. So you develop respect for for higher personality like the demigods. Then, as you go further, your knowledge increases. How you say? Because of the purification, knowledge increases, and then on that basis, you become more austere. You're ready to accept austerities to get a whole get a whole higher realization. And and finally, you by this austerity, by yoga, Ashtanga yoga, very austere. You have to you have to depart from all the mass of people. You have to live alone in the forest like that, and you have to sit there and without anxiety, without any sexual desires, without all this. It's very austere. And finally, like it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the final idea of yoga is Krite Jayatu Vishnu. Krite Jayatu Vishnu. That you actually start meditating on Vishnu within the heart. And when you realize the form of the Lord in the heart, this form is so extremely beautiful that naturally develops some attraction, some affection to that. And you allowed to start your devotional service. Yeah? But by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives, Srila Prabhupada, we immediately introduced the devotional service, even though we're living in the most degraded age, in the most covered age. It's inconceivable. In other ages, they used to practice this for 100,000 years, meditation and all this, to advance. Whereas we just introduce the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No, it says that just by chanting the holy names, you become free from all these accumulated reactions, these seeds in your heart of sinful reactions. You know? Every time you chant the holy name, this process starts. So fortunate. And naturally, when the heart becomes purified, you know, everything changes. You see things different. And actually, we're very, very fortunate to associate with devotees. Any questions or commentaries? Yes, commentary.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, you mentioned that we are so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us the conclusion of the Vedic Shastras that Sri Krishna um, is the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
And from all the Vedas, Krishna has to be known. Krishna is the conclusion of all the Vedas. Actually, Maharaj. And Maharaj, you said that it takes lifetimes and lifetimes to know this knowledge, and Srila Prabhupada has given us directly this knowledge. We are so fortunate. So, in this regard, I would like to share that there is one Vaishnava, our ISKCON Vaishnava. He lives in Kasi, in Ujjain, in Kasi, Varanasi, and he is a scholar. He's a very good scholar. He reads Shastras, and he has studied all the 18 Puranas. This scholar from
translated.
He has studied from.
Oh, studied.
He has studied. He has himself studied the 18 Puranas.
Yeah, that's 40,000 verses. Right?
Yes, many.
All the Puranas.
So, and he mentions that I'm just telling his words because I listened him, and he says that when someone follows Varnashram Dharma for 100 lifetimes, regulative principles in Varnas for 100 lifetimes, then he becomes eligible for worshipping the demigods. Demigod worship, Indra, Varun, Arun. And when somebody worships demigods for 10 lifetimes, he becomes eligible to worship Durga Devi, Mother Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, material nature. And when somebody worships Durga Devi for 5 lifetimes, then he or she becomes eligible to worship Lord Shiva, comes to the level of Lord Shiva. And when somebody worships Lord Shiva for 3 lifetimes, then becomes eligible to worship Lord Vishnu. And then after that, becomes eligible for Lord Krishna. So this is how he explained this.
Yeah.
So many lifetimes to come to Lord Krishna. And
Yeah.
we are so lucky that
Yeah, that's what the Puranas are for, like I mentioned. Starting in the lowest platform, mode of ignorance, and gradually elevating yourself to mode of passion, and then goodness, and with any, we were not saved from the mode of goodness. I was not a vegetarian. I started to be a vegetarian once I was initiated. Yeah, more or less. Yeah. I moved into the temple, and just like a little more than a week, Prabhupada came. And I asked Prabhupada if I can be his disciple. Prabhupada said yes. Yeah. Nowadays we have so many rules and regulations preparing yourself for initiation and all that. At that time, Prabhupada was extremely merciful. Yeah. That's like there's in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. There's some mentioning that Prabhupada making the first initiation in New York. And what was that? Yeah, and Yamuna, and there was Janavi, the sister, she was to become initiated, and Yamuna was helping in the kitchen, and then she heard that she can't smoke anymore. What? And then Baba, the first initiation, some of them didn't even know how that they were supposed to follow it, follow regulations strictly. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to. You are more better. I came from a very low platform, whereas you already like kind of you were born close to Vrindavan, was it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, were you close to Vrindavan? What kind of birth? Or the Bengalis, they're close to Mayapur. Like him also. Yeah. Now he's covering his face. He's also coming from a Vaishnava family. Yeah, yeah, isn't it? Vaishnava family. Yeah. From the beginning of, and in India, being a Vaishnava, there's so much more culture there. Here, there's no culture. You just walk out the door and, yeah. Whereas he was born in that kind of, they're all kind of saintly persons around there. Of course, Kali Yuga is progressing, but he was born in a Vaishnava family. Yeah, and you also born in a Vaishnava family, no? Anyway, bisschen später, no? That's why Prabhupada used to say that the Indians are our most important allies. Allies? Yeah? Allied?
Allies.
Yeah, allies.
Maharaj, actually we learned about Krishna from you here in Germany. When we were in India, I was not knowing that he is the Supreme Personality.
Many Indians are saying that. And they ask me, well, how can you follow all this? You are vegetarian, really? No? But when you tell the Indians, yes, we don't eat cows. Oh, this is kind of, they understand. Oh, this is serious. Serious business. And the Indians normally, they have big problems understanding how a grihasta, a couple grihasta, divorce. I heard there's no word in Sanskrit for divorce. It doesn't exist. Yes.
It means we invented in the Western world we are eingeführt.
Yeah, because we're matches. We have all kinds of expressions that in the higher levels don't exist. Did you understand everything? Yeah? No. Good. Because we had no translation. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution. Any more?
I
Yes.
have a question.
Yeah.
Krishna Swaraj.
Vater und Tochter. They're the only ones who ask a question.
Just a short question.
Yeah.
Krishna Swaraj Goswami was just explaining what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said at that time in Bengali, but Mahaprabhu was speaking in Sanskrit with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right?
Sorry?
In Jagannath Puri.
Yeah.
What language were they speaking? It was in Sanskrit, or because Bengali was, or was it, you know, what?
Orison. Is it a different language? Orison? Orison?
So they were also, when they were speaking about the Vedanta Sutra to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they were speaking.
Well, you know, it says that Krishna spoke all languages. and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. I don't, how do you explain this? What is your answer?
Like, he is supreme personality of Godhead. He can speak any language, whatever.
Thank you very much. So I didn't speculate. Okay, any more? Was du noch was sagen? Huh? Wolltest du noch was sagen? No? Okay, Shri Prabhupada, okay. So I wish you all have a very nice Krishna conscious day. Wurde es aufgenommen? Ui.